All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we are digging deep into something that's, well, the absolute foundation of India. It's agriculture. And look, we're not just talking about an industry here. This is the lifeblood that feeds over 1 billion people. It's what provides the raw materials for so many other sectors. So yeah, it's a big deal. Let's get right into it.
Okay, to really wrap your head around just how massive this is, check out this number, 2/3. That's right, 2 out of every 3 people in India depend on agriculture for their livelihood. We're talking about hundreds of millions of people. Their entire lives are connected to the land. It's staggering.
So that leads to the big question, right? How on earth does a nation feed over 1 billion people and keep so many lives afloat through farming? Well, that's exactly what we're going to unpack. We'll look at the different ways of farming, the major crops that are grown, and even how agriculture in India has changed over time to meet this huge challenge.
Okay, first things first. We need to understand that in India, agriculture isn't just another job. It's what's known as a primary activity. Now, what does that mean? It means it's at the very, very beginning of the whole economic chain. It's what produces the food that ends up on our plates, and it's also the source for raw materials like cotton for our clothes or sugarcane for, well, sugar. It all starts here.
So how do they actually do it? What are the methods? It's definitely not a one-size-fits-all kind of deal. There are really 3 main ways of farming, and each one is completely different, adapted for different situations, and you guessed it, different goals.
Let's start with the oldest method out there, primitive subsistence farming. Think of this as farming purely for survival. It's often called slash and burn. You can just picture it, right? A family or a small community clearing a little patch of land, using really basic traditional tools, hoes, digging sticks, and they are completely at the mercy of Mother Nature, relying on the rains to grow just enough food to get by. All right, next up is a method that was basically born out of necessity, out of population pressure. It's called intensive subsistence farming. So imagine you're in a really crowded area where land is super scarce. Every single square foot counts. Here, farmers have to get creative. They use modern techniques, things like irrigation, high-quality seeds, fertilizers, all to squeeze every last bit of food out of their small plots.
And the third type? Well, this is where farming becomes a business. We're talking about commercial farming. The main goal here isn't just survival, it's profit. So you're looking at huge farms, modern tractors and machinery, special high-yield seeds, chemicals, the whole shebang. It's all about growing crops to sell in the market. This also covers those massive plantations you see, like the tea gardens in Assam or coffee estates, where they grow just one single crop over a huge area.
So, if you put these side by side, the difference is just night and day. And it all boils down to one thing, the goal. On one hand, you have farming just to survive, using simple tools on a small patch of land. On the other hand, you have this massive, machine-driven operation all about making a profit. That one little difference in the why changes absolutely everything about how it's done.
Okay, so now that we have a handle on the different methods of farming, let's talk about what they're actually growing. The diversity of crops across India is just incredible, thanks to all its different climates and landscapes.
And we have to start with the king, the absolute staple food for most of India, rice. I mean, it's on millions and millions of plates every single day.
Now, rice is what's called a kharif crop. That just means it's planted with the monsoon. It absolutely loves hot, humid weather and needs a ton of water. So you can see why those monsoon rains are so crucial for a good rice harvest.
And get this, just to give you a sense of scale here, India is the second largest producer of rice in the entire world. The only country that grows more is China. That is a lot of rice.
Okay, so after rice, what's next? It's gotta be wheat. This is the second most important cereal crop in the country. And while you'll find rice pretty much everywhere, wheat is really the main staple food in the northern and northwestern parts of India.
But, it's not all just about rice and wheat. India's farms produce this huge variety of other things. You've got hardy grains called millets, which can grow in really dry areas. You have all sorts of pulses, think dal, which are packed with protein and are a total cornerstone of Indian food. And then there are the big cash crops, sugarcane, world-famous tea and coffee, and even fibers like cotton and jute.
But here's the thing. As India's population just exploded, the old ways of farming, they just weren't enough. They were stretched to the absolute limit. The country was facing a massive challenge. Either figure out a new way to grow more food or face serious shortages.
This critical moment is what sparked a huge wave of agricultural reform. So, to meet this challenge head-on, India kicked off a series of major reforms right after independence. You can see the evolution right here. It started with fundamental land reforms. Then came the 60s and 70s with the famous Green Revolution for food grains and the White Revolution for milk. These were total game changers. And that led into the 80s and 90s with even more programs designed to support farmers on a much wider scale.
And these later reforms were absolutely crucial. Why? Because they created a real safety net for farmers. Things like crop insurance, in case a drought or flood wiped out their fields. They set up special banks so farmers could get low-interest loans. And they introduced something called the minimum support price, which basically guarantees farmers a certain price for their crops so they don't get wiped out by crazy market swings.
But reform wasn't just a top-down thing coming from the government. There's this other really incredible story. It's about a powerful movement that came from the people themselves, a story of change that literally started from the ground up.
It was called the Bhudan Gramdan movement, and it earned this amazing nickname, the Bloodless Revolution. Just think about that. This was a massive wave of social change that wasn't driven by fighting or conflict, but by people's conscience, by the simple act of giving.
So here's how it all started. A man named Vinoba Bhave, who was a follower of Gandhi, was on a walking tour across India. And in one village, some landless villagers came up to him and just pleaded for some land so they could make a living. And then something amazing happened. A local landlord, Sri Ram Chandra Reddy, stood up and right then and there voluntarily donated 80 acres of his land to 80 landless families. Can you imagine? And that one single act of generosity, it lit a spark that turned into a nationwide fire. Landlords all over the country started donating land, and in some cases, even whole villages to the poor.
So when you look back, from the most basic tools to huge technological revolutions to this incredible, peaceful social movement, the story of Indian agriculture is really a story of constant change and adaptation. And that brings us right back to today, leaving us with a really important question. As India faces new challenges, like climate change and a population that's still growing, what's it going to take? What will be the next green revolution needed to secure the country's future?